Battlegrounds where legends reign. Aussie gridiron pride unchained. Hear the thunder, feel the flame. Touchdowns and tackles, ain't no shame in the Aussie gridiron game. From Brisbane light to Perth so bold.
G'day Aussie Gridiron fans and welcome to the AGN playoff series. Week 2, the divisional round. We are back once again with 6 of the best in the house to bring you all of the game previews for the divisional round, as well as a whole lot of nonsense and a bit of a best bets multi. The bloody best bet multi for this week. Last week's, you will find out how we went. If you follow along, you already know we went. But you'll find that out. But other than that, we'll go around the room and say g'day to everybody. Let's start with Nick. G'day, mate.
How are we, boys? Don't go about checking last week. I think mine was the only leg that didn't get up. But anyway, looking forward to this week getting back on track.
Your legs are always up, Nick.
G'day, Brad.
This is his third one.
G'day to Brad. How you going? Manjot, howdy.
Yes, hello everyone. Good to be back. Just enjoyed our pre-show, and now onto the show as well.
Oh, excellent. And then the fantasy boys, Matty C.
G'day. How we doing, lads?
And then, of course, Taylor Goodall. How are you going, mate?
Yeah, boys, when going on a roller coaster, there's nothing worse than needing to poo, but thankfully it's week 2 of the playoffs. Let's go.
Yes. I didn't even ask if you had a rhyme. I instinctively knew to
Week
put Taylor
2
last because he
with
had.
poo.
Yep. That's where we're at, Brad. That's where we're at.
It's been a long year, mate.
Oh, week 3, and I gotta go pee. All right.
You're taking it slowly ahead.
Sorry.
Oh, Brad.
In my material, Brad.
Yeah, done
Stupid
for
America.
One up,
Let
that's
out
it,
for
Cummins.
next week.
Off you go.
The best part about it is now he's got to find a different rhyme.
I've been doing it for weeks. I'm a fucking.
Oh gosh, week
He'll be
4, and
filled
I'm a
with glee
whore.
for week
All
3.
right, let's go.
You know he sits in the car daily just talking to himself, making up these rhymes. Just
Yeah.
What, you
Drives
guys,
a lot. Nothing better to do, mate.
is that weird?
Well, no,
Is
not
that
really,
weird?
I guess.
No.
All right. Amazing
No,
wild.
boys, good start.
It's a great start. Amazing wildcard round. And, we had some great games. Manjot and I recapped all those games earlier in the week. Did everyone enjoy watching some wildcard games this week?
I didn't think they were very good games. We had the Washington game.
Speaking of poo,
Yeah, exactly. The Washington game was good, but other than that, I thought they were pretty crap games, to be honest with you.
I think some of the most interesting stuff that happened during some of those games was actually the coaching carousel and the coaching news that came out. Just dumped in the middle of games. So some of that was interesting. We'll talk about a little bit of that in a second. Anyway,
No, let's not. Let's not.
Oh, we're doing it, Brad.
Speaking of roller coasters, you can
Speaking
go
of
to
roller
a carousel now.
Well, let's jump straight into Brad's misery. Mike McCarthy out at the Cowboys like everybody knew he absolutely would be, except it was a whole week late for Jerry Jones, which meant that he then couldn't interview some of the top candidates for the job because now they're in preparation week and you're not allowed to interview them. So, just denied Mike McCarthy to go and talk to the Bears one day and then said, I haven't made a decision on him yet, waited an entire week, and now he can't interview Aaron Glenn or Ben Johnson. Good on you. Well done, Jerry. That's a total Jerry move.
Yes, that is a total Jerry move. Well, you think about it, it kind of falls in line with what he does. He waited to the end with Dak. He waits to the end with CeeDee Lamb. And now he waits to the end. And again, it just speaks to the fact that all Jerry cares about is headlines. He doesn't care about winning. He cares about his team being in the headlines and being the most valuable franchise. I guarantee you, when he read that Forbes article about the Cowboys being the most valuable franchise in professional sports, he was in the corner just pleasuring himself over that. It was it's so I look forward to when we get a different owner.
It's why it's exactly why that news suddenly came out right on like game time for Sunday as well. Like he couldn't go a playoff week without Jerry going. The Cowboys need to be in the news somehow.
Yeah. Oh, he'll hire a coach probably Super Bowl week. I think try and steal.
You know what? There's people actually expecting that's going to happen.
Oh,
for sure.
jeez.
Is there a market on that? You guys gonna bet on that shit?
If I can find a market, I'll be betting on it. That's for sure.
There are no coincidences. That's what I'm saying.
There's only Jerry Jones.
Yeah. All I'm thinking about now is Triple J, Jerry Jones jacking it.
Oh man, this is. I mean, we all know about his.
God, yeah. Brad, I got a hypothetical for you.
Go.
It's midway through 2025. Jerry Jones has thrown the baby out with the bathwater and moved on from Dak, Parsons, and any other player due way too much money and just moved him on for draft picks. He offers you 3 years, $3 million to fix it. Do you take it?
Oh.
How much control does he have? Oh, he's under a dictatorship.
You have zero control. You have zero control.
You have the same amount as any other head coach that he's had in the last 5 years.
If you take it, can you hire a hitman on Jerry Jones? Is that part of
the... this got dark quickly.
You've got to do something.
Oh, I feel like Troy Aikman had the right take on this. I'm sure a lot of you guys heard this, but when people were saying, "Oh, the Cowboys, it's the most coveted NFL coaching position and vacancy in the NFL," and Troy's response was, "No, it's not, because Jerry Jones." Essentially, that's what he said in a nutshell. And I agree with them. It's so if you're an NFL coach, you want power, you want control. And you don't want to have to fight with the egomaniacal owner, and that's what you do if you sign up for the Cowboys. So, it's
he's not a football guy, but he can't keep out of football decisions, and it handcuffs anybody who goes there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a pity because again, it's the best job in terms of everything else,
right?
But you married to Jerry.
Yeah. And speaking of going there, they've already today when we're recording, they've already interviewed Robert Saleh for the job. Brad, thoughts? Robert Saleh?
Oh, I don't mind Saleh. I think he got a raw deal. He got raw dogged in the Jets. Yeah. So
thanks for bringing raw dog back, Brad. Thank you.
Yeah. No I would have no problems with Saleh as long as he's got the right. You don't need Zimmer then, essentially, because Saleh is the defensive guy, but you need somebody good you're going to be your OC. So that would be the only thing that would concern me. But in terms of Saleh as a person, no, you could do. Just don't bring back or don't bring like Rex Ryan or Carroll or any of these guys. So I don't want any of these retreads.
Well, that leaves the thought then. How about Deion Sanders?
Yeah, that's 100% the go here. Doesn't matter how hard Mark Davis goes for him to get him to the Raiders. There is nothing more sure on earth. The headline, prime time back at the Cowboys.
They've already
think about the headline.
Already said. Jerry's already said he's had a conversation with him, not official interview. He's just had a phone call with him about the position as in general.
In general,
yeah. And then
what I like about that is the fact that Deion's a star. And Deion has cachet, and Deion could push back on Jerry, and I don't think he would be afraid to push back on Jerry. He because Deion doesn't need Jerry's approval, and he doesn't seek anybody's approval. So from that standpoint, I like it. From the standpoint of all Deion's really done is he's a good leader of boys, and he's good at getting other professional coaches, to come in and actually teach these boys. And do a good job with that. When you're dealing with men, it's completely different. So he's great for the college game. I don't think he'd be great for the NFL game, but I would love him to say stuff just to piss Jerry off. That would be fun.
It'd be a strange move because he really would just be the figurehead in a way in the head coach. He would have DC and an OC that would basically do all of the actual game stuff. Like and the actual coaching and all that sort of cycle. Yeah, so it'd be interesting. But he also has already said that he wouldn't want to be a head coach unless he can coach one of his sons. So yeah.
No.
How do you do that when
No.
you've already paid Dak a ridiculous amount of money? And yeah.
Oh well, you trade Dak for the number 1 pick. I mean, come on, isn't that obvious?
That was a great mock trade. I was super
Yeah.
pumped.
Who says no?
Yeah,
Who
it was
says-
awesome how we were somehow giving away more picks on top of that too, somehow. But
Yeah.
Would you want Dak for the number 1 pick?
I wouldn't even do it straight up, let alone giving up a third and a fourth or whatever was in there. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
that
doesn't
was
make any
dog
sense.
shit.
Like, why would the Titans doing that makes no sense. I was bringing that up with someone else the other day. I was like, it doesn't make any sense for Dak to get picked up by a team like the Titans. Like the Titans have to rebuild everything. Like there's no point giving up like picks for young guys to go get Dak for your team to still be shit house. Like what would be the point of that? Like
Just lean into the rebuild. It's fine.
I couldn't really understand because that was the thing about Dion going there, and I personally hope Dion goes somewhere because I feel like the Titans can then hold that team to ransom for the number 1 pick if they want to go secure his son. But just in general, I don't really understand like what team at the top of the draft is going to give up their pick when they kind of all need quarterbacks. I know like Cleveland technically could go elsewhere or whatever, but I just don't know why a team up the top there that are terrible and need to turn their franchise around would all of a sudden give that up for a guy like Dak or something else, unless they're trading back in the draft to get more picks. It doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, because there's not many of those franchises that are looking for head coaches that have star quarterbacks that you could then use as trade collateral to try and get that pick.
It would only be like if it's in the draft and Sanders has dropped to like 5 or 6 or something, and then all of a sudden that's when like teams might go, all right, Sanders is still there. Let's trade something to a team that maybe doesn't need a quarterback right now. All they do, and they might take a Dak because it's the 6th pick and not the 1st or something. I don't know. There is ways it could happen. I just can't imagine how it's going to be like those top couple of picks.
Yeah. The other big coaching news, and we'll just touch on this then while we go. Mike Vrabel announced as the head coach of the Patriots, which is just it's reported that
what?
Yeah, wow, what a surprise!
It's
shocked. Reported that
I'm actually, oh my god,
Executive VP Elliot Wolf will report to Vrabel and that they are conducting interviews with former Titans executive Ryan Cowden to come on board as well. And it would seem that Vrabel may have been given Bill's old set of keys to the building.
Yep, I like the move. I think get some more Patriots identity back in there. Defensive guy, tough guy, leader of men sort of guy. I think that's the sort of guy you need from Mike Vrabel. I think he can bring back some of that Bill Belichick energy. It felt like he was really building something with the Titans until he lost the power struggle, and it just felt like it all went to shit for the Titans after that. He was really holding that team together, shall I say. And I think with that, like, yeah, definitely, I like this move for the Patriots.
Hey, do you think he'll go well there, Vrabel?
Yeah, he got a raw deal at the Titans. And honestly, after Robinson fucked up that AJ Brown trade, I kind of felt like the writing was on the wall in general. I just felt like the whole team needed to go in a different direction and basically tank it. And Vrabel isn't the kind of guy that's going to hang around for a tank. He's kind of like a Tomlin style coach. Like he's more of a lead. Like you brought up leader of men earlier. That's what I believe he is. Like he's not the kind of guy that's going to like scrape himself to sort of like a 4-13 year. I think he's going to get the best out of every player he has. So I feel like he doesn't matter where he goes. I feel like even with this Pats team, I could imagine them sort of upping their wins first year to like. I don't think they're like making the playoffs or anything, but I could see them getting to like 6, 7, 8 wins just because I think Vrabel has that mindset and gets the best out of his guys. So obviously you'd need to see who they get in the draft and what happens in free agency and stuff like that. But I really like Vrabel. I think he was an amazing coach. What he did at the Titans, like some of those teams that he got to 1 seeds that had all these injuries and didn't really have all the talent in the team anyway, to get them to number 1 seeds into the playoffs most years, I think he did an amazing job.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be starting off with a pretty decent defensive sort
That
of
helps.
side of the ball. Yeah, so that's going to help a lot at the Pats. And then a QB in Drake May who was just going up like by the end of the season.
Growing.
So-
Do you kind of like? I generally hate when a team just look into their past to find a guy who's got some club identity, and then they just marry the guy and give him a huge deal, and then of course he sucks, and they sack him halfway through his contract. But in this is like one of those rare instances where you go, oh, actually, I like this one, and not because like I'm not a Patriots fan, couldn't give a fuck about the Patriots, don't particularly care a whole lot about whether they're successful or not, but you could just kind of see this is one where he's a good football coach, and he's going team where he's got the identity within the building as well, and that he's kind of part of the fabric of things that made that team successful when he was a player as well. But he's actually proven to be a good coach. So I kind of like it in this instance. But God, I hate it when a team just go and take a player who was a former player and make him a first-time head coach. And like, I don't know, like try the Vegas Raiders. It's like, we knew that you shouldn't have married the stripper. We knew you shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Well, Mike Vrabel's not a stripper. He's marriage material.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't marry Ginger. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do not marry Ginger. Life advice from Matty C.
Or Mercedes or any of them.
Bubbles.
Yeah,
You guys are too familiar with those names. Is there something I want to talk about?
From where I live, Mitchell, that suburb in the ACT is just down the road, mate.
Talking all bad at Brad's ex.
That suburb.
What are you talking about?
Matty says that suburb. It's closer
suburb.
than where he actually runs. So he Matty would run through
mate.
Mitchell easily.
Take it in. Yeah, take it in.
I'm just going to do a half marathon. Yeah, no worries.
There and back twice.
Oh, the end of Matty's running career, all exposed.
That's a start. It's a start, mate. You'll all
Matty-
be coming running.
Matty exposing himself. What's new?
Yeah, that's right. You'll all be coming running.
Get your magnifying glass out.
You'll be coming and running. Anyway, moving on.
All right, let's move on to divisional round previews. And as per last week, some of the boys have been randomly drawn out of the machine in the box to just intro some of these games for us and get us kicked off on each of these games. And we will be starting at the very top like we did last week. And Nick gets first cab off the rank twice in a row, mate. So we're going to be kicking off with the unlikely Houston Texans, who are now traveling to Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yes, and this is actually, I remember actually previewing this game when we did this about 5 weeks ago before they played the Christmas game as well.
You
That's
did.
right.
So there you go.
It was so.
Take two. Anyway, I mean, let's start with the Texans. So pretty good win last week against the Chargers. They controlled pretty much most of that game. Their defense was outstanding. You know, had a lot of turnovers, getting the ball from Justin Herbert, who played a horrible game. Offensively, they were good in some spots. It's pretty much been consistent with how they've been all year offensively, which has been, they haven't quite got to the heights that they did last year, but defensively, it looks like they've improved. And particularly, statistically. So, this team is first in takeaways for the whole season, and then third in sacks, and then third in opposing third down conversion. So they're a team that is really good on that side of the ball in the stats that do matter. Now, how this team played the Chiefs last time, it was actually quite a tight game. If you go back and look at the numbers, no team led by more than 2 scores. Even the Chiefs, I think they ended up winning by a touchdown or so. So no team led by more than 2 scores. And in that game, the only maybe noticeable player that played well in that game was actually Tank Dell, who obviously won't be playing because he snapped his knee in that exact same game, unfortunately. So is this a game where maybe the Texans could get up? Is this a game? There's probably an upset either this week or next week that you try and find, who's it going to be. I don't think it could be this one, though. Unfortunately, with the Texans, I would love to see them go through. And considering how much the Chiefs have, traumatized me over the last, 5 years, I don't think it's going to be the Texans. Mahomes in the divisional round, 6-0 16-0 touchdown to interception ratio, 115 passer rating, and averages total yards per game of 302 yards per game. Absolutely insane. This is his round. He's always made it to. It's like their season starts at the divisional round. They get to a spot. Their season starts at the divisional round, and they play 3 games for the year. It's insane. They've now got Marquise Brown, who's back. He only had a couple games, but he allows them to do them a bit more. That will allow Hopkins in the short game to be able to be good. Travis Kelce in the playoffs, we know what he's like. Look what happened last year. It was quiet through the regular season, came about in the playoffs. Could be the same this year. How they go defensively, I don't think they're quite as good as what they were last year, but they're still quite a good team on that side of the ball. Unfortunately, I am going to have to go with the Chiefs in this one. I think the line at 8.5 is probably a little bit too big, but I do have the Chiefs winning this one in a low-scoring game. I'm going to go Chiefs winning 20-14.
20-14. Okay. Yeah. This game is everybody's heard about the Chiefs and just how good they are in the close games. Let me just give you a couple stats that just reiterates that. The Chiefs have won a league high 11 games after trailing this season. 7 of those they trailed in the second half, and 5 of those they trailed in the fourth quarter. I think Houston's best. They're only going to be able to keep it close, and I take the Chiefs all day, every day in a close game. And I think what's going to hurt Houston is their third down. They basically stink on third down. They were like 30th in the league for being in third and long. So 27% of their plays or of their third downs were third and long. So you can't win in the NFL long term with that. It was what they did last week was impressive. I thought it was really, really good, but and it surprised me. I think it surprised a lot of people. But they're you heard it said a million times. I don't want to beat like a dead horse, but in order for them to have any chance, they got to win the turnover battle. And Patrick Mahomes, I feel like, is just too good with the ball. He's not going to turn the ball over. It have to be some wild, crazy stuff. So yeah, I'm Chiefs all day, every day on this game.
Yeah. And I feel like as well, you got to factor in home field advantage. You're playing Arrowhead, playing against Patrick Mahomes. Only 2 quarterbacks have won in Arrowhead against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Tom Brady, the GOAT, and Joe Burrow in that championship game where they got it in overtime on a field goal. So that shows you the margins there. You can only really beat them if you go like down to the wire, close game. As I just said, like both their playoff losses with Mahomes at home have been in overtime to great quarterbacks. CJ Stroud, he's going to have to rise to the occasion. I don't feel like he's going to rise to the occasion here. I think he will play a decent game, but I don't think he'll do enough to really push the Texans down the field. And granted, they're playing against a great Kansas City defense. And also, they only really have the one receiver in Nico Collins that they can consistently rely on. I think that's a big factor in this game. And yeah, going Chiefs as well there.
The problem is, if you just took the stats from the regular season, I actually could see this being a close game. But the problem is with the Chiefs, they step it up every single time they're in the playoffs. It's not the same team and it's not the same setup. It's like they play possum all year, like with their offense, and then all of a sudden, when it gets to this point of the year, they seem to unleash whatever Andy Reid's sort of been like holding back all year. Kelce all of a sudden becomes Kelce again, and you've talked about Hollywood Brown sort of coming back. I'm not saying that he's going to all of a sudden come out and have 100 yards, but it's just another weapon on top of everything. Xavier Worthy really started to shine at the end of the year. It's just so many more weapons against this team that I think their season stats are going to could actually be worse in this game than you've actually seen during the year, which is bad because like they're up against a great Kansas City defense, like Manjot already said, but they were already struggling just in general against everyone this year. And I just don't see that getting better in this game. The only way I can see the Texans staying in it is if it's an absolutely shithouse, low-scoring game. And I see that from the Chiefs in the playoffs. So if this was a regular season game, sure, you could talk me into it being 14-10 or something like that, because the Chiefs seem to just not really give a shit. But in this game, in Arrowhead, Manjot brought up only two quarterbacks have gone there and won. This isn't the team that's a prototypical team that could go do it. It's not a Burrow-led offense that's going to just win a shootout or something like that. I just don't think the Texans have enough points in them in this game. They honestly could get shut out. They could. I'm going to say it's 24-7. I don't think it's a close margin at all, and I think it's very low scoring. And I think the Chiefs put up points on them early, and they coast in the second half, and the Texans get one score on the board, and that's it.
Awesome.
Manjot, Brad, I don't have scores from you guys yet, but you've both gone Chiefies. Manjot?
Yeah, I'll say Chiefs 24, Texans 13.
24-13. What do you got, Manjot?
Yeah, I think the Chiefs haven't gone over 30 points this entire season, so I'm going to keep it below that 30. Going to go at 28 points to 14.
Oh, gosh. And look, I'm looking at the same sort of things. I'm going, okay, this is a Chiefs team who, regular season, regular schmees, and they're probably healthiest they've been aside from clearly Rashi Rice going for the whole year. But every other position, they actually got healthier as the season's gone on, and they're at home against a team who are lucky to be here. I'm going 29-13 Chiefs.
Ian? I really want to go Texans just to mix shit up because we're all going to go Chiefs. But yeah, I just don't. And I'll probably say it a little bit more later, but just having a Texans, I don't think we need to see a Texans team any further than here, to be honest.
Agree.
Well done.
Yeah.
You won your 3 p.m. wildcard slot. Well done. You've done well. The Texans team that we've been seeing this year, we don't need them to accidentally turn up in a conference game. So I think just for football in general, this needs to be Chiefs, because we need to end up having the winner of that other amazing AFC matchup play the Chiefs, so that we can once and for all, people can say this is what it is. So I'm just going to go, Chiefs. Matty stole my score, so I'm going to say 29-14.
I'll just say quickly too.
Stole your score?
Yeah, it's in my head. The whole time I was saying 29-13, but I don't want to get the same as someone else. But I do think it'll be Chiefs 29, because it'll still be like the whole can't score over 30 in a game narrative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Tay.
I was just going to say quickly that the big problem for the Texans too in this game is I think they're going to struggle to run the ball. The Chiefs were top 5 in terms of rushing yards against, and they were pretty dominant all year in that aspect, and I just don't see that changing. I really don't trust the Texans' offensive line either, so I don't know if Mixon's going to be able to sort of run a buck and get them on the front foot, so that's going to be a huge issue for them too. So it's going to have to all be Stroud, and I just don't trust anyone outside of Nico to really do a lot of damage in the passing game as well, so I just don't know where it comes from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally agreed. All right. Let's move on to the second game on Sunday in Australia, and it is the NFC matchup, which is Matty is Commanders at Lions, and Matty's going to kick us off with that one.
The commies, as I'm calling them now, the commies and the Lions. Look, the Lions, they've just got this thing where they run it down your throat, right? And they're going to have Monty back, so I like that. But weirdly, the commies stop the run relatively well. Actually, pretty decent run defense. It's a secondary that's pass. And we saw their running defense in action last week. They only gave up 77 yards, no touchdown. I know Bucky Irving scored, but it was in the passing game because that's how you score against the Commanders. So while Detroit don't mind racking up yards and points, they're actually pretty defensively good against the running back too. And you can say maybe that's because they went 15-2 and they were leading a lot of games, so teams just didn't run against them. But they're actually top 10 in like average yards per rush against them. So it didn't matter how often people run against you. You're now saying when people run against you, we're still top 10 against how many yards we're defending, even in situations where you could just very softly break off long runs in games you're trailing. The thing that is interesting for me about this, though, is you meet Jaden Daniels because he didn't have a lot of design runs last week, but he's capable of getting something out of a broken play, and we saw that a ton last week. And I think that's pretty interesting to me, especially with Eckler back as well and looking pretty good. He seemed to have given Eckler a bit more space back there, and we know that mobile quarterbacks will always improve the average yard per carry of whoever's in the backfield with them. Brian Robinson had a terrible time last week, but Eckler looked actually pretty good. So to me, I think we see Detroit needing to stay balanced, because while they're capable of scoring a bunch of points, and I do expect them to force Washington into passing situations, Daniels does just enough magicking up of bullshit that is off script to keep scoring points. And we witnessed that last week too. They held onto the ball because he just kept on extending drives, even though they didn't actually look all that like they were going to score a ton of points. And then they got a turnover late in the game that got them the win. So, that's playoff football. You've just got to be there in the moment. 60 minutes, loser leaves the island. Did Washington deserve to win? Who cares? Deserve to schmo. They won. Just be ahead at the end. But I don't think they will be at this one. And I think Detroit won't actually be too bothered by them. I think they will lead the whole way through, just based on the fact that, Jaden Daniels magicking stuff up isn't a game plan.
I just think there's too many horses on the Lions side. Like, you obviously saw them, be able to stop the Bucks well enough, to keep them to 20 points. But the problem is, I just feel like the Lions just have so many dimensions to their game. Like, if all of a sudden the Commanders or the commies, as we're calling them from
commies,
if they are doing an okay game, job on the running backs, which I still am not sure about, because obviously Detroit's offensive line is so unbelievable. It's so much better than Tampa's. So even if the Commanders have been doing a better job at stopping the running backs, it's just another beast going up against this Lions offensive line, and Gibbs and Monty together. It's so hard to beat. But let's just say, for instance, they did do an okay job on that. All of a sudden, you're just having to stop Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're stopping Laporta at the tight end position. You're stopping a huge play from Jamison Williams. They just have so many different ways they can beat you. I just find it so hard. Like, it was an amazing win for Daniels last week. I give him so much credit. Like, what he's doing in big moments of games is amazing. And honestly, if you break down the stats of this game, it actually is not a bad situation for this Commanders offense. Like, really, the Lions outside of that Week 18 game have been very exploitable in the secondary. Like, you've been able to, you can't run on them very well, but you can throw on them. And this game definitely looks like that's what they're going to have to do. So I don't exactly see it as like a gauntlet for Daniels in the passing game. But again, like, who's going to step up massively outside of McLaurin for him? I know you saw some Diami Brown and stuff like that last week, but I just don't trust a lot outside of that. So I just think they're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to get enough from their passing game lines, and it's going to be too big of an ask for Daniels. But look, the guy's talented. I can see them scoring points themselves, but are they going to be able to keep the Lions under 30? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's the big thing for me. It's like a little bit like Taylor said. For me, if you're looking at at Washington, it's going to be like, if they're going to be close, they're going to have to put up like 30 plus points. Like, the weaponry that Detroit has got is just insane. They can pass it. I still think they'll be able to run the ball well. I think Montgomery will be back. Washington were better with being able to stop the run last week, but throughout the whole season, they were 30th in rush defense. So maybe that regresses back to the mean for them, where they're sort of just coming up against this insane offensive line, and with the run game with Gibbs and Montgomery, they just completely overpowered, which I think is going to happen. Sort of said something similar like this last week with the Broncos. It's like, you got here, you weren't supposed to be here. It was a great run. Sort of feel like that's a similar spot for the Commanders here. Detroit now fresh. They're fully healthy, at least to what they can be, apart from, Hutchinson. But I think this is the block. You try and pick out a blowout, like you try and pick out an upset, you try and pick out a blowout. I think this is definitely going to be the blowout this week. If Washington can't put the points on the board, it's going to be tough. So I think, and then the spot, a stat I actually found, before I give my score prediction, 8+ point favourites in the last 15 playoff games are 15-0 and 2-5 against the spread. And the points per game differential is almost 14 points, almost 2 touchdowns when you're an 8+ point favourite. So the stats say it. Even the gambling side says it. I'm definitely going Detroit. I'm going to go Detroit 38-17.
I'll throw mine into it and give it. I'll say Detroit 34-24.
34-24, Taylor, and then 38. I love that, Nick.
The big numbers.
I'm going 31-19.
Woo. I love them. Some big numbers. I love it. I think it'll be a little bit closer, though. when the spreads came out and the Commanders were at 8.5, I was just like, that's too good straight up. Actually, they were 9.5, I think, when they first came out. And I was like, no way, that's too good to not bet on like immediately and get that. So I think it'll be a little bit closer in terms of score differential, but I think it'll be a pretty high scoring game. I'm going to go Lions 40, Commanders 34.
Woo! 40, 34.
Bring it on.
Jeez.
Oh,
Hungry.
Yeah.
Well,
I was
after my own team scoring like fuck all points last week, I just like I want points. I want to see
Those points?
touchdowns. I want points. Let's go, lads.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that as well, Ian, like, yeah, I was definitely going on the closer side as well because I mean, these, as London Bake said, it was these are the cardiac commanders, like London Fletcher said. Like, yeah, he just said it perfectly. These are the cardiac commanders, and they've been in so many one-score games this year. Like, they've been in one-score games pretty much every week since they played the Ravens, except a couple games where they blew out like shit teams. But so I think they can just get enough scores to just either hang in close or they'll just make it up in garbage time or something like that. I feel like they'll get it to within that one score margin. So I think their defense, as the rest of you said, their defense is susceptible to a potential big play or two from the Lions and just getting knifed in a million different ways. So the way that the Lions go, it's like death by 1,000 paper cards. These guys just have so many ways to just go on the offense. Jared Goff, very efficient in so many different games. You can pick apart a defense, shall I say, and just know where your weaknesses are. I think that in itself makes me think the Lions would get a high score. I'm going to go with 35-28 Lions.
oof. All right. Well, my take on it is, and it lends itself to what Ian is saying with the high scoring, is if you want some aggressive offense, this is the game for you. Because the Detroit leads the league, or has the lowest rate. It's a better way to say it. They have the lowest punt rate in the NFL, and then Washington is the second. So you're not going to see, if there's a bet for no punts, and this is the game that I would take.
All fourth down plays, Brad.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So Detroit is third in the league in fourth down conversions, and Washington is second. So again, yes, you're right. No punts and lots of going for it on fourth down. So I think that's what's going to do it. The only way Washington has any chance in this is if Daniels has a monster game. On defense, Detroit likes to play man. In passing situations, they lead the league in man coverage. That's what Jaden Daniels excels in, is when he gets blitzed and with man coverage, he has the most rushing yards of any quarterback. So it's a perfect marrying. So, and Detroit gives up the most rushing yards to opposing quarterbacks of any team in the league. So it does lend itself to some of Daniel's strengths, but the rest of it is Detroit is the clear favorite. So you could be in for some good Daniel stats. Like if he can stay healthy, I think, and I don't want to foreshadow too much on this, but I think there's some good bets. There's going to be some good bets there around Daniels and his individual prop bets. But I think it's going to be Detroit clearly in this game. In terms of a score, I'm gonna go Detroit 37, Commanders 17.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So I went 31, and I'm the low water mark. And also, Brad, last week you were the only one with the balls to go the Commanders. I was wondering if you were going to have the balls to go them twice, but I see why you didn't.
No, I am not.
And no one thinks less of you. No one does. So there you go. Clean sweep. 6 of us on the Lions. How about that?
There we
2 games in a
go.
row. Chiefs 6 in a row. Lions 6 in a row. Can't wait for us to all have egg on our faces on one of these.
I'm just having a look through, Brad, through the lines on Sportsbet, and there are no lines for number of punts or even just number of times gone on fourth down. I'm gonna have to message Sportsbet and tell them to work out a line.
Absolutely.
Because Taylor, there's defensive prop markets on this game.
I'm moist.
I am moister and oyster for that
Correct.
Right,
Team to kick the first field goal.
I'll hang on. First field goal markets. Yes, team to have first field goal. Let's go. Commanders apparently. Let's go.
No one's kicking any field goals. They're either turning it over on down or it's a first down.
Field goals are not going to win this game. There's no way the Commanders are kicking field goals in this.
You got Zadarius Smith.
If you backed Jack Bates, Dan Campbell would personally come and wipe his asshole with your ticket.
I think the only way we see field goals is if one team is ahead by just enough that the field goal would put them 2 scores ahead late in the game. That's the only scenario I see.
Zadarius Smith is favoured to have the first sack. So apparently Daniels is going to get sacked. Yeah.
Bye-bye, commies.
It's just unreal. I love it. All right, we got everyone's scores there, Matty.
Got them all.
Thank you. Thank you, sexy Terry Matty. Let's move on to the other NFC game on Monday football in Australia. The NFC is up first, and it is the Rams, the LA Rams, at the Philadelphia Eagles with Brad.
Get spicy. Come on.
Yeah. It's you kind of got the brains versus the brawn here. I'll let you figure out who's who, but I can tell you Philadelphia is not the brains.
I know oxmoron.
Brad versus Taylor.
I was like, what am I?
I love it. No, so this is a rematch from week 12. In week 12, the Eagles went into LA on a Sunday night. They beat up the Rams 37-20. But if you remember in that game, it was 7-6. The Rams were ahead 7-6 with just over a minute left in the first half. And then the Eagles score a last-second touchdown, and then second half it's just all Eagles. They just steamrolled them. They scored 24-7 until the Los Angeles gets a nothing, a worthless touchdown late. It was a close game until that second half, and then Philadelphia just put their foot on their throats and just stepped on them. And I think you saw last week what happened is basically Philly got there on their defense. Their offense looked pedestrian. It really did. Jalen Hurts is not all there. I think he's still got to be dealing with some injury issues. But you know what? It's kind of their identity. And we talked in the pregame about this, of just about teams sticking with their identity. Well, this is what Philadelphia has done, is they're a running team and a defensive team. And that's what they did. So if it's interesting, like if you would have listened to I read a lot about just different teams, and so I was looking at Philly's home fans and what they were saying. And granted, it's Philly home fans, so they can barely put 2 syllables together. But it was just you would have thought they lost the game the way they were talking about it. Their home fans, so it was really interesting from that standpoint. Eagles get 4 takeaways against Green Bay, and it's the third time. This stat blew me away. So the third time in 4 games that they've had at least 4 turnovers. So you're talking 12 turnovers.
Oh, Brad, that's a good bet to start looking out for, isn't it?
Isn't it? It's just that one really blew me away at how many turnovers they're getting. And again, we've always said it. Turnovers is the number one indicator of success. So the Eagles in week 12, they just ran wild over them. And but since that game, the Rams starting defense has given up 14 or fewer points in the rest in all their games, except for the throwaway week 18, which that one didn't matter. So they've clamped down. You've seen the Rams defense clamp down and really kind of schematically get in the groove. And this is what happens when they're such a young team. They are the youngest team on. I've kind of geeked out on the stats this week, but in terms of, okay, what's Manjot? You could probably tell me this. What's the highest spending defense in the league? What team has spent the most money on defense? Do you know that?
You can do this.
I mean, it's the Steelers.
Yeah,
Ian
absolutely.
was repeating
Steelers,
that a million times on our show during the week.
Okay, yeah.
So that was a test on whether Manjot was actually listening to me while we were talking the other night. So.
Oh, okay. So Steelers. Anybody know how much they've spent on defense?
No, I didn't check the number, but I know that they're the most expensive.
It's over like 200 million.
So this year on their payroll, they have 170 million on defense. That's what they're spending on defense. Do you know what the Rams have on defense?
20.
Yeah,
not quite.
They got a bunch. 40. They got a bunch of rookies.
They got a bunch of rookies, so it's less than 40 million. So and so what happens when you have all these rookies is it takes time for them to gel. It takes time for them to get the schematics. So they have really kind of brought it together. So I think this game, if you're looking for an upset, this could be the one. Now, with all that said, do I think that's going to happen? Like if I'm putting money on it, which at the end of the day is kind of what, the determinant factor is. If I have to put money on it, I'm still putting my money on the Eagles. I still am. That offensive line for the Eagles is just too good. And Hurts is the type of quarterback where if you can get pressure on him, then he suffers. When he has a clean pocket, he's got almost 80%. He completes almost 80% of his passes, second in the NFL. Under pressure, he drops to like 25th in the NFL. So if the Rams can generate pressure with that young defensive line, then they have a chance. But I don't see that happening. The Philly offensive line is just too good, led by Australia's own Jordan Mailata.
Malata's not that hard to say, Brad.
That's what I said, Ian. What are you talking about? That's exactly how I said it.
Nick's name is harder to say than that. Like it's.
Notice how I don't ever say Nick's last name?
Well, I don't say it real well either.
Yeah. Yeah.
6 syllables. Come on now.
I know.
You get to the actual pronunciation of my name, and yeah, he'd have like no chance of that shit for sure.
All right, man. Way to steal the thunder. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, at the end, I'm going. I think it's going to be somewhat close. I'm going to say Eagles 27, Rams 24.
Oh, I like that. 27-24. Right.
Nice, Brad. You know what? I'm going the complete opposite direction. And a lot of it is because I think it is going to come down to defense, but I'm the opposite to you. I watched a lot of that Rams defense, and not just destroying the Vikings during the game. And for anyone that didn't catch some of my rants during the week, I watched a little over half of that game because I was so shitted off with the Vikings. But I went back in all of mine. I was talking to the boys about this before we started the show today. In all of my arguing with Vikings fans during the weeks, because apparently we have the most mind-numbing fans ever because they can't understand football. But I went back and watched what happened in the coach's film on all of the Sam Darnold sacks. And what I was specifically looking for was coming into this game was, what did that Rams defense do? Because that's really going to matter against this really good, as you pointed out, Brad, Philadelphia Eagles offensive line, who are incredibly strong. Jalen Hurts could build a house in the time that these guys hold the line. It's unbelievable. So I wanted to see, what are these guys doing? What were they doing on defensive line? What were the DBs doing, et cetera, and just see where they're going. They played amazing, fantastic. Jared Verse, Kobe Turner, and Braden Fisk rushed on. I haven't looked up the actual stats and I was trying to find them. I reckon 80 to 90% of snaps, defensive snaps, they were rushing everything 2-3 times through the middle, from the sides, everywhere. And it was really getting mixed up a lot in their defensive scheme on where these guys were coming from. And it was all to get around that O-line. and the way that some of the tackles and stuff were playing as well. Like there were guys, blocking two or just trying to go through two, not even blocking. Sorry, one hand, one guy each palm, just so that these guys, so Jared Verse could run around the outside, so he was a free rusher. Yeah, so I'm leaning the other way, mostly because I think I really like the way this Rams defense is playing. That's what has stepped up. The offense didn't play that well against the Vikings. What they did was score enough points to make sure the Vikings could not come back and that they had to keep passing the ball, which helped their offense. And I think which helped their defense. And I think that is what we'll see more of in this game against the Eagles. There is a partial part of it with me where I just can't stand the Eagles and the Eagles fans. So, yeah, I'd love to see them have that same amount of hurt. So, I'm going the exact opposite to Brad. Rams 27 over the Eagles 24.
I don't believe this, but I typed that in before you started your chat.
Thank you.
I was about Ian 27-24. I did.
I love it.
Thank you.
Love it.
So I feel like this is where this is going.
Me versus Brad.
I love it.
Mano,
I already won because my team could get to the finals.
Well, you won.
I'm gonna sit in a similar spot to Brad though, and just go 26-19 Eagles. I don't mind that it stays close, but I just think the Eagles have lost one game since week 4. It was when Kenny Pickett started, and they lost by a score to the Commanders in Washington in the weirdest game you've ever seen. So look, I believe the Eagles are just the better team, hands down. So that's it.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I've just look. I think you guys have said like great things about the Rams. I think this Eagles team, like I said, the word hostile like a million times. Talking about Philadelphia during the last show I was doing with Ian. That is a very hostile place to play. I mean, those fans, they're rowdy, they like to get loud. I mean, heck, they even fucking heckle you if you're an opposing team fan. It's going to be crazy going into Philadelphia. Those guys will be going crazy for this playoff game, potentially their last home field game of the season. They'll want to bring up all the noise. You got this Eagles offensive line, bookend tackles, both of them all-pro consideration. I think both of them potentially Rob Dan, Mailata, and Lane Johnson. They're going up against a couple rookies here in Fisk and Burst. And those guys, I don't think they have the experience compared to that offensive line. That offensive line, I think, is going to dominate the trenches. I just think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to allow Saquon a lot of holes. It's going to allow Jalen Hurts a lot of time to just pass the ball to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert running over people and all of those sort of things. I think this is going to be a lot different to what you guys are saying. I think that the Eagles, I think they're going to win by 2 scores at least here because they're hosting this game. They're going to be in that hostile environment, have to keep using that word there. And really, they're just going to be just dominant. I think the Rams, they've been a good story this year, bouncing back from 1-4, going into the playoffs. And they've done a really good job. But I think the Eagles, as much as I agree in, I hate to say it, but I think the Eagles going to win by 2 scores, 30 points to 20.
Taylor, you want to give us the score?
Yeah, I'm close to the man, Jot. I think it's lower scoring. I think with the Rams, it's one of those beware of the team that looked a little too good in the first round. I feel like they're getting all this like buzz now because of how they put the Vikings away. But you look at that, there was obviously a bit of emotion. I'm not saying that I know you had the shits of that in when that's all they were talking about before the game, but I just think in general it almost felt like that was their Super Bowl in a way. I feel like what Brad brought up almost gives me pause because I feel like their young defensive pieces are playing out of their skin, and that worries me going into a game like this. It makes me wonder if they're just ready to sort of have a game where they drop back to the mean a little bit. And I actually think because of the offensive struggles, or I say struggles, but generally this Eagles team just hasn't had to do shit on offense because their defense is so fucking good that everyone keeps downplaying how well the Eagles are playing and how good this defense is going because they haven't seen all these points out of the Eagles. But really that's because they don't need it. So I think this is a similar game where I just think they shut down the Rams completely. I know Stafford, is a great playoff performer, but I just don't see them scoring a lot of points on this Eagles defense. So I've got it being I've got it being a 10-point game. I do think it's not exactly close, but I've got it at 24-14.
And Nick,
bring it home.
Yeah, Nick.
give us a score, Nick.
All right. So I thought about this, and I thought I was going to be on an island with this pick, but I'm also going with the Rams. One of the common themes from last week, and I'm going to say this because my picks went horrible. But looking back on it in hindsight, look at every matchup. Now you can make an argument between Washington and Tampa Bay, but the better quarterback won in each of the matchups. That each of those matchups, the better quarterback came through. Now, Saquon had his best game for the season against the Rams. I think he went for a couple of touchdowns and went for, I think, north of 250. That's not going to happen again.
No.
The Rams will have an emphasis on it, like they did last week. They're going to stop the run and they're going to say, right, Sam Darnold, you're going to beat us. This week, they're going to go, Jalen Hurts, you're going to beat us. It's going to be a wet game. It's probably going to be snowing as well, but I think that's going to be what keeps it tight. That, I think, favors the Rams more because there'll be a young defense, and defenses do travel. Like what we said before, with the Rams defense, they have given up 8 points per game in their last 4 games, excluding Week 18. 8 points per game. That's insane. That has probably kick them into gear defensively for them to be able to be such a good team. So last week, as Ian said, they were trying so many different things. And I think that they'll probably go back to that this week, and they'll probably be sending some more guys. They'll be forcing Jalen Hurts to be uncomfortable because you're going to have to overcome this offensive line. So they're going to have to be sending 5, 6 guys. If AJ Brown's disinterested, he'll be back reading the book on his sideline, all that stuff, I think they are going to make Jalen Hurts beat them. And then I think towards the end of the game, you're going to be going, okay, who do you trust more? Sirianni and Hurts or Stafford and McVay? I know who I'm going to go with because Stafford with McVay, 5-1 in the playoffs, 111 passer rating, 15-3 touchdown to interception ratio. That's pretty good. And even though it's wet, the Rams play indoors, I think there's going to be a play where this is going to be a low-scoring game. Because it's wet, I think the Rams defense is going to show up. It's going to be scrappy. There's not going to be a lot of, easy sort of fluid play from both teams. But I think at the end of the day, the adjustments at halftime is what's going to get the Rams sort of over the line. I think they sort of come out early, have a bit of a lead, make the Eagles pass the ball, play a bit of catch up. And I think this is actually the game where it's going to be an upset. So I'm actually going to go in a low-scoring game. I'm going to go Rams 17-14.
Okay, wow. I don't fault anybody for picking the Rams, and I certainly would give the edge on the coaching staff to them. So I think either way, this will be a close game, in my opinion.
Yeah, hopefully.
I mean, Rams really known for winning their low-scoring games too. So I mean, this would be an absolute change of personality and skin for them. But as you say, there's a lot of reasons why they would have to. So I can see the thought process behind it. I'm not going to disparage the thought process there because I think, playoff football again. It's 60 minutes, loser leaves the island, and you see strange things happen because of the opponent that you've got and the situation you're dealt. So, mate, have at it, 100%. I love the screwball here, and we've got a few heads going on Rams. And then just us, favorite lovers, or just sticking with the Eagles and not sticking our chin out. So, props to the fellas for getting their balls out.
That's right. Strangely, these two teams don't play each other often, but the Rams haven't actually won against the Eagles since 2020. So they don't come across each other too often.
It took a fucking pandemic. Jesus, I feel better about my pick.
That's right. All right, let's move on to what could definitely be the game of the round, possibly even the game of the season, maybe even the game of the decade. Ravens at Bills. Taylor is going to kick us off.
I'll be honest, boys. I haven't even picked yet. I still don't know. I'm going to give it some stats, and honestly, they're going. I'll foreskin it right now. It's going to favour the Ravens, but in the end, I'm going to sort of talk about why. I don't think you can just jump in and go with it based off stats. I think there's a feel to this game, but basically, this game's going to be as cold as a Penguin's foreskin. It's going to be so cold in Buffalo, and I think that's definitely going to help them. But look, in the end, I'm going to do my little thing I did last week, where I sort of just sort of compared the skill positions and everything. Allen versus Lamar, I don't think it really gets any closer. If you actually break down the stats, there actually is a clear lead for Lamar, funnily enough. Like, it's 42.62 yards for Allen, 40 touchdowns and 6 picks. Lamar, 5,087 combined yards, 45 touchdowns and 4 picks. Absolutely phenomenal. Dude's been fucking freak. Running back Cook versus Henry. Cook 1,267 yards and 16 touchdowns. King Henry, 21-14 yards, 18 touchdowns. You got to give the edge again, honestly, to the Ravens there. Wide receivers, a bit of a shit sandwich, honestly, on both sides. You got Shakir, Cooper, my boy Curtis Samuel, fucking bringing the noise. Never wrong, just early, as me and Angel like to say. Up against maybe Flowers. I've got no fucking clue. Like, even if he plays, is he actually 100%? I'd probably lean the Bills there, but like, honestly, I don't think it's going to be one of these games where the wide receivers are going to win it. There might be like a broken play where like a Rashad Bateman or something has like a 60-yarder, and you'll say, hey, the wide receiver actually won them the game, but it's not going to be one you're going to be able to forecast. Tight end, Andrews against Kincaid. Andrew has the edge, 55 catches, 673 yards for 11 touchdowns. Kincaid's actually had quite a down season. He's been injured. 44 catches, 448 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just doesn't get really utilized in the red zone, so I don't exactly see him being a huge factor. So that's another one you got to give to the Ravens. Defensively, the Ravens are 9th in scoring defense, 8th PFF ranked by the end of the year. So they turned that around. They were really struggling there for a while, especially in their secondary, and they were always a great rushing defense, but they struggled in their secondary. But they really seem to get it going. Hamilton obviously makes a massive difference for them. The Bills are 11th in scoring defense, but they're 18th ranked PFF. So I do actually give, even though that secondary had struggled early in the year for the Ravens, I think you'd actually give a slight edge to them overall, because obviously their rushing defense is so amazing. So they're going to force the Bills to obviously go through Josh Allen, which we know he can. But I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball real well here. Like I said, I am really, really struggling to pick a winner. I think there is a huge edge for the Ravens on the ground. I think the Bills really struggle to defend the running back position. And the fact you've got King Henry and Lamar makes a fucking massive difference. And it's not something that I'm taking lightly. But in the end, like, it's one of these ones where you look at the stats and you say Ravens, 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 but then there's just this part of you in the back of your mind saying it's fucking Josh Allen. He was so close to knocking off the Chiefs last year. They obviously went on and won the Super Bowl. I honestly think the Super Bowl winner is in this game, which is so frustrating because whoever I pick to lose, I'm essentially saying I think they're probably the second best team in the fucking league. Yep. So that's what's making this game incredibly hard. It's one of these ones where I'm a stats-based guy and it leans me to the Ravens, but then there's something in my heart. Before we did a bracket and before the playoffs started, I took the Bills to win the Super Bowl. So I haven't exactly seen anything that would actually turn me against that. It's a tough one, boys. It really is.
Oh, it is. It's for sure.
I've never been more on the fence. I brought it up in the group chat. There's been nothing I've thought about that's actually really like cemented me on one side or the other. But the only thing that I am going to go with is I am going to change. I'm going to take the Ravens. Honestly, it's what I've seen in Lamar this year. There's something different about him. I came into the season. I talked up the fantasy stuff. I thought Henry was going to. I never thought Lamar was going to be a bad quarterback or anything. Obviously, I had my issues with him in fantasy. What he's done in the passing game is nothing short of phenomenal. They have 45 fucking touchdowns and spread them around to everyone. It makes me not give a shit if Zay Flowers or anyone's there. I just think this team's going to be able to run the ball on the Bills too well. I know it's going to be cold, like I brought up, but I actually think that might help the Ravens.
-8 is what -8 in normal units.
The problem is,
17 degrees in freedom units.
the way I break this down is I think they're even everywhere except the fact that the Ravens are going to be able to run the ball better. And I'm like, okay, if I think Lamar can still peg the ball around as well, almost as well as Josh Allen, and I think they're going to be able to rush the ball a shitload better than the Bills, and I'm seeing everything else even, it's really, really hard for me to then all of a sudden say I think the Bills are going to win. So I am going to flip. I'm going to take the Ravens. Very, very close. I would like to take this by a 0.5 margin if I could. But I generally think that someone's going to win by a field goal. So I'm going to take the Ravens 27-24. And I've never been less confident in a pick in my entire life. I just hope this is an amazing game.
You're right about the rush yards, and even the sports books agree with that, Tay. Henry's line is at 96.5. Cook's is at 55.5. Like the disparity just in those two rush lines, and I really like that James Cook line at 59.
I think I'd go under on Cook and possibly over on Henry. It's one of those things. And the thing is, like last week, right? I did think that Lamar was going to have a lot of rush yards because I really felt like the Steelers were going to bunker down and stop Henry. I don't think the Bills have the horses to stop the run as well as the Steelers do. So I actually think that they're not going to have a choice. They're going to actually have to sort of let Henry run wild on them a little bit. Not to mention Henry has the most ridiculous record against the Bills. Like some of the games he fucking put up with the Titans was insane. You saw a game earlier this year where he ran for 90 yards or whatever the fuck it was in the first play of the game. Like this team has seriously is like Sam Darnold seeing ghosts out there against fucking King Henry. Like those guys are worried they're going to get sent in the fucking shadow realm with his fucking palm. I don't know. I think King Henry has a fucking like some sort of like hold over the Bills, and I don't see it changing. I think he's going to have a massive game, and I just think they're going to be able to run the ball too well. But again, I'm sounding like I'm so pro Ravens because I picked them. I really do think this is going to be the closest game of all time.
I totally agree with you, mate. I think the exact same thing too. I said it this week on our recap show with Manjot that same as you, mate. I think whoever wins this game, like, don't worry about the championship game. Whoever wins this game wins the Super Bowl. Like that's where it is for me right now. And I was high on the Chiefs early in the season. I'd picked the Chiefs way early in the season to win the Super Bowl. Just the storyline of the three-peat, and I thought they were really good. But from what I've seen for the Chiefs and what I've seen of these two teams, it's whoever wins this game for me. And it doesn't even matter that the Lions are really good or the Eagles might be pretty plucky for me. It's these two teams. And it is such a shame that we not only don't get this particular matchup as a championship game, but just the fact that you can't not like either of these teams the way they're built. Like, don't worry about your franchises and what you think about franchises like the Buffalo or the Ravens. Don't worry about that part. These two teams, the way they're built, the way they play, you can't not like either team. And it's just such a shame that at the end of it, one of them has to be a loser and one has to be a winner. But also, the way the dumb NFL media will be is that come like Tuesday, in the States or whatever, but Monday, Tuesday over there, immediately after the game, 20 minutes after the game, Lamar versus Allen, they are going to be talking about whichever one of them loses, one of them being good enough to get over the hump, which is total bullshit considering these the two best quarterbacks in the league. And I know what Joe Burrow did this year is amazing, but these are the two best quarterbacks we've seen in the league, the two top MVP candidates and the ones that were sitting even with each other for such huge periods of the year through MVP ranks and stuff. And it's so dumb that we're going to end up with those narratives because I think it's great. You just need to celebrate these two teams being where they are right now. I'm not going to talk too much more. I'll give my pick. You boys can have a chat.
And I've spoken a shitload. Sorry, there's just one other thing I wanted to bring up, and I don't want to touch on what anyone else says, but I actually think the Ravens, if you look at what their issues were last year, especially against the Chiefs, I think they're built better this year to go and win a game like that than they were last year, because the biggest issue I think the Ravens had in that game with Roman obviously at the helm at OC is they didn't run the ball enough. they all of a sudden like got themselves down like one score against the Chiefs and decided, let's just fucking throw the ball 100 times, and they didn't run. Honestly, they had Gus Edwards. Look, I don't think he's amazing or anything, but I really feel like they went away from what helped them during the year, and I don't think they're going to make that mistake again, because the fact, I almost think in a stupid way, having no Zay Flowers or a hobbled might actually help their game plan a little bit more, because it means they're going to have to run through Lamar and Henry, and it's what they really should have done against the Chiefs, even if they went down early more last year. So I think the fact that they're actually set up this way with Henry and Lamar, it makes it way.
Well, this is exactly why they got Henry, really, isn't it? It's this game, this particular game in these finals. This is why they got Henry.
Exactly. It's like I feel less worried about a Lamar implosion. You know what I mean? Like, Lamar's been fantastic, and I know he's been fantastic in regular seasons in the past, but I'm less worried about him imploding in this like playoff scenario, because he's got a Henry next to him and he can hand the ball off as soon as things get hairy. So I just don't think he trusted like a Gus Edwards in that scenario last year, whereas he's going to 100% trust Henry. I've said enough. I'm sorry, boys. I've been thinking about this game a lot, obviously, and I had a lot of diarrhea to come out. But that's in the end, that's why I lent very, very slightly a Matty C's dick to the Ravens.
Speaking of Matty C, for me, Bills 29, Ravens 28.
Oh, I like that. That's even closer than Taylor, who was saying that he just spent 22 minutes talking about the game, and every minute he talked about it, his cock grew an extra inch for Derrick Henry, number 22. Look at that. 10 seconds. Bang. Just like that.
Boys,
in school right there.
I don't know if the rest of you have any more to say than what Taylor's really said. If you do, please say a little bit. But I don't know, mate. You've set that up perfectly. But yeah.
Taylor nailed that. Mate, I'm going to go with the blowout.
Taylor nailed.
34-10. Ravens 34-10. Boom.
34-10 to the Ravens. Yeah, righto.
Yep.
Okay.
Get in front and then just pound them, because their defense will just keep it. They don't even need to score a ton of points with the offense. The defense will just monster them once they start having to play panic mode. So I'm going big.
Wow.
Boys, who's up next? Manjot?
Yep. All right. As
how many is Lamar going to win by, Manjot?
As president of the Lamar Jackson Fan Club chapter of Australia, the non-Ravens fans, I have to be 100% honest. Like, there is bias from me, of course. I am a big Lamar fan. I really want this to be the year for him, especially with my 49ers being out of the playoffs. I really hope this is the year, as Taylor said. And I thought, Taylor, I know you analyzed this game well. You left this until your very last point, but Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Cole Weber, and I think Taylor just nailed it on his very last point. That is where I've been thinking about this game long and hard this week. You know, just as long and hard as some other things we were just talking about like 2 seconds ago.
Thinks about long and hard things.
Of course.
You heard it here first.
Of course.
Matty likes to come to his back door.
Oh, I wouldn't go to his front door.
It's long and hard.
You started to get confused.
Oh, man. Yeah, where was I? Yes. So, you know, Taylor's last point. Yes, indeed.
Sorry, man.
All right, I'm sorry, man. Just reach around.
Yeah. So, yeah, look, with Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, that backfield, they're playing Cole Weber. It's just an incredible backfield to have. If there was any two players I would have in snow where you can't pass the ball that much and you have to have a backfield, I choose Lamar Jackson. I choose Derrick Henry. I choose those two players. I choose this exact moment for them. And the Bills, I know a lot of people are talking about Cole Weber as a potential advantage for them, but you got to remember, in this exact round 2 years ago against the Cincinnati Bengals, they're playing in snow. Joe Burrow went in. He absolutely just tore the shreds off the Buffalo Bills. And that game as well, I was thinking about that. I know the teams are a little different now, but I was thinking about that game as well and thinking that really snow and the cold weather. I mean, even last year they're playing against the Chiefs, and I know it's the Chiefs, but they lost in a cold weather game in Buffalo to Kansas City. I don't think the cold weather is going to really favor Buffalo as much as people like to say. So I took that a bit out of consideration. And I think it favors the the Ravens a bit more. I'm going Ravens 24 points to 21.
Brad?
Yeah. All right. So I'm a bit like Tay on this in the sense of I had a hard time coming down on it and figuring out where I was going to land. I do not think this is going to be anything like their first time they played earlier in the season. That one, Bills Ravens beat them 35-10. We're ahead at 21-3 at halftime. That game was a joke. It was over pretty soon after the first quarter. I think this is going to be tight. Whatever when you're watching this game, you just have to appreciate you are watching a historic offense. Especially this Ravens offense is just unreal. They are averaging almost 7 yards a play in the regular season. Do you know the only team they trail is the greatest show on turf, the 2000 Rams. So they have a phenomenal offense, and I don't think they've gotten enough credit for that offense and the stuff that they're doing.
MVP. MVP.
Yeah, right.
No.
MV3. MV3.
Yeah.
Just come back in my box now.
And the only oh jeez. The only teams that have had any type of success against the Ravens are those teams that go play aggressive cover one with a heavy man blitz. And that's not what the Bills do. They would have to be going against type in order, if they're going to stick with what's worked against Jackson. All that said, all the stats, I feel like, give Baltimore a slight edge. But this kind of comes back to a little bit like how I felt with the Commanders game. It's just there's something about Buffalo, the way they're playing and how much they believe in themselves. I just feel like that they're gonna get it done. So I'm going against our type. I'm going against all the stats, and I'm taking Buffalo in a close one, 28-27.
Nice.
Dang.
Nick,
Oh,
do you want to bring us home?
tie it up.
Oh man, it's you know what everyone said. Everything you could have said.
Yeah,
But it is, and we've all been. Everyone that will be watching this game has been thinking about it the entire week since. Buffalo won this game, and we knew it was going to be second, third to Buffalo and Baltimore. It is an insanely hard game to pick. I've tried to view this from a lens, like we said, of non-stats perspective. And you look at it, the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. It's just an insane dynamic duo. And we've been saying it the whole year. Buffalo, a bit like what Brad said, there's something just about Buffalo that just draws you to them. I think this year, I think this could certainly be a Josh Allen legacy game, and I think he's going to be showing as to why he should be the MVP. I just feel like he is going to find the way because they've relied on him the whole year, and I don't think it's going to be something where we've seen in the past with Lamar where they've relied heavily on him, and it gets to the playoffs, and he just sort of tightens up. I think I think Josh Allen leans into that now because he's not worried about digs in the back of his head or something else. He just knows they're a team that runs the ball. He's the guy that can get out and create his own. He can play make. He can just do what he thinks is the right play. And I think it's set him so free in his head, and that's why he's an MVP, like a real MVP candidate this year. I really want to say the Ravens, and in all sense, really does say to lean with the Ravens because it's a snowing game. They run the ball, everything like that. I just feel like the Bills are going to have to go a little bit different, like what Brad said about playing an aggressive defense. I think they're going to have to, and I think it's going to work, particularly if Zay Flowers is not playing, because they'll just say, right, beat us with the passing game. We've seen you try it before in the playoffs. Whereas the Bills are just, I just feel it's going to be close, and it's just going to be Josh Allen is just going to make so many plays, and he's done it before in the playoffs. He historically, statistically, is a good playoff performer, but I think this is just going to be a game where he's just going to stamp himself, and it's just going to be like, right, this is my year. And if you look at it from the Ravens side, you would say that with Lamar as well. But I just feel like this is some teams are on a collision course, and I think the Bills this year they are on that course. So I'm going to go with Buffalo winning 24-23 in the end.
Oh,
Love it.
Wonderful.
split.
That's a
There
lot
we go.
That's a lot of great picks. Sorry, Take. Yeah.
I was going to say, I'll give you one stat. Minnesota were the second best rushing defense in the league, and they gave up 93.2 yards per game. How many yards a game do you think Baltimore gave up on the ground?
90.
77.
Jeez.
12. I was just going to say dumb low number because they're so good.
Jeez.
But like and it was insane because like the next five are basically like you could put a blanket over them. It's like 93.2, 95 point something, 96. It's like all these like elite rushing defenses all in the 90s. And then you've just got Baltimore at 77. Like they just shut that part of the game down completely. That's really the edge that I looked at in the end because I was like, I feel like everything's even except Baltimore's got these two rushing opportunities where if they sell out on one, they can't defend the other. Whereas I don't think they're going to have to sell out on James Cook. I actually think they can just defend him well enough off the horses they have, and they can then focus on Josh Allen. That really was all it came down to me because I feel like everything else is even.
I'll give you another stat. The AGM team under over for doing game previews is set at about 90 minutes right now.
That was 4 games. That was 4. That
Four
wasn't even
games.
6.
It's 4 games.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
right, great game previews though, boys. You did really well. Really, really good. And we had some really good scores and some good stuff to follow along with. And of course, we're not just doing it just to sit here and talk for 90 minutes about games. We're doing it for points because it is a game. Maddie was tallying up some points last week. Do you want to give us a quick recap just on the points, Maddie? Who's sitting where in the table? Scoreboard for us.
It's funny because it's all separated by like a point from 2 guys who are at the bottom, point to 2 guys in the middle, point to 2 guys who are at the top. So it's all pretty close. But Nick actually stuck his neck out a bit, and so did you, Ian. And you weren't rewarded. You end up with 2 points between you from the 6 games.
Keep that
Manjot and I.
Keep that neck in.
Yeah, that's it. Manjot and I, we I think we went heavily on favourites, and we ended up with half of them. And then get this, Brad leading the G'day Gridiron fellas out with 4 points. Taylor's going to join the cast next year because he's got 4 as well. So look at that. Yeah. Brad and Taylor on top, 4 points out of the 6.
We'll have. Yeah. It'll be that's my show will be insane now, Matty. I'll have Taylor and Brad and Nick to contend with. It's just
that's it. And just all the scraps come with me, mate, and we talk fantasy because we're clearly not hitting the mark that you need to make the G'day Gridiron cast, mate. And I've known that my whole life. So
no, because just no one wants to compete against Matty in fantasy anymore.
I think that's it, mate.
just starts.
Put a lie straight in bed, mate. You could not.
Ruin starts. That's all it is. No. Right. All right. Let's move on to Bloody Best Bets Playoff Edition. Now, last week, boys, we all chucked in our picks, so 1 line each for AGN multi. And I'll give you a quick recap. Nick went Steelers plus 9.5. Unfortunately, that was a loss. Unusual for Nick. Brad, Ravens first half spread minus 6.5. Absolutely. Ding, ding. Taylor had Puka plus 7.5 receptions. How did that not happen?
I don't know. He went to shit. They didn't need to pass. Remember, I was talking up Stafford to have passing yards. They got so far in front of half time, they didn't pass at all in the second half.
I thought he was going to have plus 7.5 in the first quarter, to be honest. But that's the way that game went. Manjot had Justin Jefferson anytime TD. No way. Not with that amount of points.
Oh, man.
Matty went Mike Evans anytime TD. That's just easy
That was money for Jim.
money. And I had Saquon 100 plus rushing yards. That was also just an easy bet. What an
Money.
easy bet. So,
Good
boys,
jam.
3-3, 500 we're at as a group. Look at us go. Split.
Not
Well
bad.
done. So
Great for multi-betters.
it is great for the multi-betters.
exactly.
Let's put on another multi for this week. So I hope everyone's got a line just sort of
I've got 7.
racked up. You got a line racked up. Of course, you've got 7. Your
Yeah.
list. If we've learned anything from fantasy, Taylor, it's that your list is deep.
Yeah.
That's what we talked about last week.
Yeah. That list is fucking long.
Cake.
So, well, Taylor, I'll give you a chance to get the best one off your chest. Then, which one do you want to go first?
I've got a serious theme with my 7 picks. They're all unders.
Oh,
I
the
don't know
fun
what's
police.
going on.
Whoa.
I'm in a negative mindset.
Oh, you've
But
been
like-
hanging around Brad too long.
So literally, all of them are just
Fun
under
police.
on either rushing yards or buddy like receiving yards, and I don't know why. I just found a lot of guys I didn't like this week in terms of their number instead of guys that I did. So I sort of touched on one already, but I'm going to leave him. I also wrote this yesterday, so I kind of didn't get the exact number anymore. So
You're right. Hit me up with what it is, and I'll search for it for you.
I actually think I'm going to go with Rams Eagles under 44.5 total points.
Okay.
I really think that game, especially with the weather, but just generally, I don't think either offense is going to completely flow in that game. I've already brought up, I think I had 24-14 as my score for the Rams and the Eagles. Like I said, I just think both defenses are playing very, very well, and I think the Eagles are going to shut down the Rams in that game. So, yeah, my best bet's going to be the under 44.5 in that game.
$1.87, $1.84. Sorry,
Yeah.
$1.84 for unders. Paying $1.97 for overs.
Yes, might as well pay $1 million.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, let's kick it to the other half of the fun police. Brad.
Absolutely. So I am actually taking an over on a player prop bet.
You two, what you two?
You can't do that.
I know. So it's going back to my Detroit, Washington earlier. I was talking about Jaden Daniels, and I just think he is going to have a good game against Detroit. You're going to see him marching up and down the field. So I'm taking Jaden Daniels on the yardage over at 234.5 is the mark. So I think he's going to pass that with ease.
Yeah. Okay.
Really low.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really. Yeah, it is really low, and paying $1.88, which is weirdly good money. Yeah. Okay. Plus 234.5 for Jaden Daniels at $1.88, and let's go next to Manjot.
Oh yes, this is look, it's it's a really interesting one. I'm going with the big game here. It has been talked about all week, of course. We're talking about the Baltimore Ravens against the Tennessee Titans, and why not back up my call from just earlier? I'm going with Derrick Henry here. Now, there are a few good lines. I reckon Derrick Henry, 110 plus yards, $2.40. I reckon that's great value on sports bet there.
Taylor, were you aware that your team's in the divisional round this week?
Well, yeah, I would like to change my tip to the Ravens by 54.
Well done, Manjot. You misspoke big time.
Yeah, I'd like to take Baltimore at Tennessee in paying minus 21.5.
Oh my goodness.
Low, it's a low line.
Yeah, no, I think I was just reading some stats. I was looking through Derrick Henry's playoff log for some reason just to make sure my yardage totals were like good. And
decided to lay your own log, apparently.
There we go.
Got a playoff scoregami there and go 46-5.
Well, I was just okay. In all honesty, though, I was trying to remind Taylor of the Titans' best playoff win in like the last decade. So there you go, Taylor. I just want to give you good memory, you know.
Well, good backpedal, man, John. Maddie, do you want to give us your best line?
Well, I kind of got a bit of a smoky because I think that I am not backing away from the amount of points that I reckon is going to go up on that Ravens side, and that the points are going to be pretty free flowing, and it seems odd to me that Rashad Bateman's such a wide bet for their touchdown because I don't know. I just think they're going to score 4+ touchdowns. I just kind of struggle to see where they'll come from if Bateman doesn't get one. He's paying almost $3. Jesus. So I was looking at that and just thinking, well, you know, I might call that one out. Rashad Bateman, anytime touchdown, $2.85.
Yeah, well,
Gonna boost the multi.
Mate, when you guys can all buy a little slice of Cancun, thank Matty C. That's what I'm saying. You can see why I don't bet, can't you?
Taylor, no foreskinning for when we get past Nick's pick, but mine is going to boost the multi. Nick, you want to go next?
All right. I'm going with a simple one. I'm going back to a team one, as I touched on earlier, looking for the blowout. So I am going to go Detroit -8.5. I definitely think 2 scores is the play here for Detroit. So -8.5.
Easy one.
Love it.
Easy. Just a nice, simple -8.5.
What's we going to do?
What is it?
That actually correlates well with Daniels over in the same game too, because if he's behind, then he's going to have to throw.
Yeah, he's got to pass.
Anyway, so
it does work really well. All right, Taylor, my multi booster for this week, because everyone knows that I love a roughie, and I don't know why it is so rough, but it is a roughie. I'm going, and even though I talked all the shit about the Eagles and everything that was going on there, I'm going for an Eagles player with an anytime touchdown, and it is Dallas Goedert, anytime TD.
Oh.
Dallas Goedert, anytime TD at $4.60.
what was Calcaterra playing?
I don't know. I can find that if you'd like.
$78.
The old Grant one. But yeah, $4.60 for Dallas Goedert after a triple facepalm TD last week.
Oh my god! Yeah,
that was the stonking touchdown run.
I was erect after that. Oh my god!
Yards after catch. It's just forget yards after catch. Face palms after catch.
And
delicious.
One of Jalen Hurts' 7 pass attempts too.
Yes, yeah,
100%. And I mean, Ian's got he's still got the Eagles scoring 3 touchdowns in a loss. So I kind of like that all this correlates.
Yeah. Well, I don't know whether I did have that, didn't I? In a loss. So, yeah, it still correlates.
Yeah, 27-24. I mean, you're still saying there's points in that game. So.
And it still sticks with yours. It's Rashad to get, they all kind of work together. Rams Eagles under 44.5, though. I'm a bit suspect on Taylor's now.
Yeah, well, we just
even at my 34-10, that's 44 points, mate. So we're all right.
Eagles 7-0.
Yeah, good.
Touchdown to got it.
Anyway, all right. So if you go in a multi, Lions -8.5, Daniels plus 234.5 passing yards, Rams Eagles under 44.5, King Henry plus 110 rushing yards, Rashad Bateman anytime TD, and a Dallas Goedert anytime TD into a multi on Sportsbet, and it will come out at $255.
Whoa!
Oh, what was that at?
Sneaky $1 for me, mate. That's all. Just one sneaky dollar for me.
$255, boys. I'm hitting that power play button again because it's at $263.40 for our power play. Let's go.
$263.40. Fucking hell.
What a power play. Thank you very much, Sportsbet. Totally not sponsored either.
Not yet.
Hit us up,
Not
SB. Yeah, not yet.
Yeah. Don't worry. I'm getting the DMs real soon. Use that pastry press power for your. Don't worry.
Yes. And I don't have my entire spiel written down anymore, but I should. We didn't mention it last week, but of course we should say, bet at your own risk. Don't take our advice as gospel. It is your choice to bet on whatever you want and take any of this advice in any way, well, not in any way possible, but just anything. Just, It's all here for entertainment purposes, and that's why we're doing it for shits and giggles, just to see if we can come off and just be the best. But do not take any advice. Bet at your own risk, and always consider what you could be losing before placing any bet. So I didn't do any of that last week, and I need to find my spiel again so that I can do it. I've got it there somewhere, but I don't have it on hand right now. But anyway, that's it. Bloody best bets for this week. That's game previews for this week. We are through the preview show, which means tomorrow you will hear a fantasy wonderland when we do a fantasy show again, and recap all the nonsense that went on this week, and I don't know how some dumb idiot won the week and is probably going to tank the rest of the week. So if you want to hear that hilarity, tune in.
But you do.
You do,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely you do. So just tune in. And if you don't want to hear it, just tune in anyway.
Yeah.
If you
Download, don't listen. That's fine. Download, don't listen.
100%. 100%. Always, please. That'll help us out. Rate us. Give us good thumbs ups everywhere. Rate us 5 stars wherever you're listening to stuff. That helps as well. Yep. And if you want to catch up with us on any socials, Linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network. You'll find everybody's socials, including the Aussie Gridiron Network socials. So check us all out there. And until next week, it is bye from me. Go around the room, boys. Come on. There we go.
I might see a doctor because I'm still long and hard. Thanks, boys.
After more than 4 hours, mate, you should definitely see a doctor.
Nick?
We'll see you next week. Hopefully I'm back with the picks.
Man, John.
Well, as I always like to say, thank you, everyone.
Bring it home, Brad.
We're off like a prom dress. Let's go.
Absolutely perfect. You boys cannot be any more perfect. See you later.
The G'day Gridiron podcast is brought to you by the Aussie Gridiron Network, a network of Australian podcasts bringing the fun and a little bit of the Aussie larrikin to the NFL and fantasy football. Check out our other amazing productions. Australia's #1 fantasy football podcast, the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Everything about the local game at Aussie Gridiron today. Manjot's Pastry Press on Instagram and YouTube, and Australia's very own Dynasty podcast, No Huddle Dynasty. Find links to everything at Linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network.